and welcome to what is this? The Sunday sermon. See, I'm all dressed up because I had a lunch date. I know you're thinking, oh, will she see him again? The answer to that is a big capital N-O. But it was fun to get out of the house. You know what I mean? It's nice to do that. I even held up the conversation. It was somewhat pleasant. For me, that was a struggle. But enough about me. Let's talk about you now. And what we're going to talk about today is parenting. Now, for the last few years, we've noted, especially amongst younger people, what is this Gen Z and the millennial set, um, how they have changed, how their mentality is just very strange. They have like just a widespread epidemic of low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, underperforming. They always want to be right, so they have this real anxiety about being wrong and making the wrong choice, or someone looking at them and laughing at them. I mean, all of these things spell out a lack of confidence. A lot of these kids are unwilling to take risks. They're unwilling to take a chance. And if they have a situation where they don't do well or meet their expectations, or kind of flub up a little bit, they crumble into pieces. They sit at their parents' house playing video games and not really trying. As far as the young men go, there's a marked lack of achievement, a lack of wanting to strive for an education, lack of interest in striving for better employment or employment at all. As far as how they interact with women, there's a lot of toxicity, a lot of meism, narcissism, violence, entitlement, all kinds of things. And people are like, oh my God, everybody's running around like Chicken Little. Oh, look at our society, this and that. Now, from where I sit, you know what the fault of all of that is? Bad parenting. Because every one of these kids grew up in an environment where they had parents or some other kind of caretaker that did not do what they were supposed to be doing. Now, you have to admit that some of these kids are, raised in foster homes or whatever, and those people, getting some support as a child from them is kind of an iffy situation. There are some that are stellar and caring and supportive of the foster children, and there's some that just have them in there to get a check. Sometimes the kids suffer all kinds of abuses and stuff under foster care. From being ignored to worse, neglect, that kind of stuff. Um, but the bottom line though is, we're not going to isolate it that. We're just going to talk about the behaviors and how they got to that point, and what you as parents are, parents that are you're preparing yourself to become a parent. Maybe you have small ones now and you realize that you don't really know what you're doing. These are some guidelines and some things I want you to consider. Are these rules? Am I T. Barry Brazelton, MD, or Dr. Spock? No, no. What I am, though, is a mom, a daughter, a babysitter of dozens and dozens of kids in my family and outside of it as I was growing up, and a co-licensed person with my mother's daycare that she managed for 25 years. So, I've seen thousands of children, not to mention, during my own childhood, all the children that I grew up with. So I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I'm a very observant person, and I notice patterns, and I know what I've seen. And what I've seen is not good. And a lot of it, if not the majority of it, comes from home, from what children did not receive while they were growing up. So let us start. Let me load up my slideshow so we can get started with all of this. I will be taking some questions later, and we did have a poll on this, and some people responded to some of the questions, with their own stories, and so I'll be going over those. They are on the slides, and we'll be seeing those in a little bit. Which layout do I want to use? This one? Nope, we want it bigger than that. I'm sorry, I can't remember which layout I use. This is stupid. Is it this one? Yeah, there we go. Sorry, stroke brain. Okay, there There we go. This is what we want to. This is the layout I want to use. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you are new to this channel. This is some very valuable information. You have time now to post a link up on your social media or invite a couple of your friends that you know are parents over to see it in the show and participate in the live. Of course, if they can't, they can always come back and watch the replay later. So let's start with, what does it mean to be a parent? A lot of people, I don't know, they seem to kind of fall into parenthood accidentally. You got to think about it. For everything that we do in life that we have a huge responsibility for, especially when it involves other people's lives or property, we have to get a permit. We have to get a license. There's testing involved. There's, certain regulations and rules that we sign on to follow. Unfortunately, there's no such thing when you decide that you want to have a child. There's no regulations. There's no rules. There's no license. There's no test. There's no nothing. You just, get pregnant and you have a baby. Get a woman pregnant and you're a father. That's just it. That's all that requires. But what does it really mean when we decide that we're going to take on that role? Because it does come with a lot of responsibilities and obligations. To me, the goal of being a parent is listed here. We are supposed to be the stewards, guiding our children to reach their full potential. We don't own them. Okay, they're kind of like leased to us for a little while. We're responsible for a little while, but our goal is to guide them to reach their full potential by imparting morals and values and a sense of independence, so by the time they reach adulthood, they're capable of taking care of themselves. We're supposed to be spending time with them developing vital life skills. These are things that I'll be going over a little bit later, but it involves, other things that involve responsibility, like driving, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, self-care, hygiene, keeping a house up, that kind of stuff. Those are vital life skills. Shepherd them to become a successful, responsible adult who contributes to society. Not someone walking around with their hands stuck out thinking that everybody's supposed to do stuff for them and take care of them. And we're supposed to provide our children with mental, emotional, and physical safety and a sense of well-being. That sense of well-being comes from you being consistent, showing that you care and love them, and are there to guide them when you see them about to make a misstep. This is what you're supposed to be doing when they're very young, before they leave the nest. You prepare them to leave the nest by doing these things here. If you notice as we go through these slides that there are certain points that you are lacking, please come back and make note of them and then start working on changing them so that you can do the number one point here, which is guide your child to reach his or her full potential. Now, there seem to be three basic parenting styles. There's the kind where the parent is focused on themselves, the parents, parent focused. There's the type where people are focused on the child. And then there's a kind where people are focused on their relationship with the child. So the child focus, number two, you're focused on the child's needs and wants. And the third one, you focus on your relationship with the child. Now I'll go into these three in a second. The parent focused is basically, a parent focused person is focused on themselves. They're focused on their needs, what they want, what they like, what they want their kid to be, what they want their kid to do or not do. I mean, it's all about them. Okay, the child is, I don't know, the child really doesn't fit in there much, because the child doesn't really get to make too many decisions or do anything unless the parents like it. You see that a lot if you watch the Korean dramas, the overbearing mother roles that they play. I'm not saying this is true, okay? I'm saying in the shows, they often show the mothers as being overbearing and controlling, and throwing glasses of water on the girl because she's not good enough for her son and all this kind of stuff. They're focused on themselves and what they want for their son, regardless of what he may want. And this is what we're looking at here with the helicopter parents, just hovering, just won't let the kid leave the kid alone. Parent-focused parents are very authoritative. It's a do what I say kind of thing. Some people whose fathers were in the service didn't experience that. Their main goal is to control the child. They do this in a way that we discussed on the wall, where they may not allow the child to close his or her door. Some of them take the whole door off so the child has no privacy. They want to know everything that you do. They toss your room like you in prison. I mean, all kinds of things that just violate the child right and left. Read the child's diary or journal, get the child's password and look through their phone and their social media. It's just ridiculous. They always want to know what the child is doing, where the child's doing. The child cannot do anything unless the parent approves of it. They give orders and commands. They don't ask. They tell you. Now, I mean, and when they're little kids, that you probably have to do more of that than when they're older. But once your child knows the policies and the rules of the household and the lay of the land, I mean, why is that necessary? You're going to be giving them commands all the time. Don't they know what to do? If they don't know what to do, then you either have a child that has some special needs and you should get them diagnosed, or that means that you're just too much of an authority figure and trying to boss everybody. A lot of these kind of parents yell and scream at their kids. Sometimes they will use foul language at their children. They will demean their child when the child does something that they don't like or don't want them to do. They will, tell the child all about themselves in a way that does not talk about the behavior. They attack the child personally. You just like your daddy. You just I mean, that kind of stuff. You've heard that before. These kind of parents demand obedience and compliance. If you try to do anything where they consider to be talking back or giving them lip or not listening, they just go crazy. They will nag the kids to death, not giving the child a chance to make a decision or remember on their own. They constantly telling them what to do. Like the kid is stupid. They punish the children. They never think to give the child a reward for good behavior. They don't do anything. And sometimes don't even acknowledge it at all, But they will punish them for doing something that they think is a transgression, even if it's something that other people be like, what? And sometimes these punishments, are at the level where there's physical violence involved. And some of these parents, focusing on themselves, live vicariously through their children because they didn't get to do something, they didn't get to be something, they didn't get to have something, they didn't get to wear something, whatever it is. They make sure that their child has it. Even if the child doesn't want it, they make sure the child has it because they feel like they wanted it when they were a kid and they didn't get it. So they make sure that their child has. It's very interesting and it's kind of sad when you think about it. Then there's the second kind of parenting style, right? This is the one where the parents are focused on teaching and guiding the child. Now, they may incorporate some of the elements from the first style and some from the one that we haven't discussed yet, but generally they focus on using teachable moments. Like they give their child some freedom. They tell them, guidelines and stuff like that. And then when the child flubs, they sit them down and they talk to them about it. They're like, okay, could you have made a better decision? What could you have done differently? Well, if that happens again, what are you going to do? That kind of thing. These parents take a time to impart values and social norms and behaviors in their children. Things like saying please and thank you, eating at the table with your mouth closed, not your elbows not on the table, giving ladies their seat on the bus, opening doors, this kind of thing. They teach core values, the values of, not lying to people, not trying to use people, being honest, doing a hard day's honest work for a hard day's honest pay, not trying to cut corners and game on people, this kind of thing. They make sure that they teach those children those kind of core values. These parents tend to be calmer. They're not ranting and raving like the first style of parents, the controlling parent-centered ones. They tend to be calm and warm and accepting. The kid wants to do something. Well, why you want to do that kind of thing. They're going to discuss and explain why something should or should not be this way, why the child should or should not do certain things. They're going to still be the authority figure when the chips are down, but they want the child to understand the thought process behind the decisions that were made and why they made them, which is very important if you want your child to grow up to be an effective parent, him or herself. Taking this time to teach them how to think through logically, non-emotionally, to think through the decision-making process is an excellent, excellent skill to teach your child. These kind of parents, they focus on the child, use discipline in a positive way. Like what they'll say is, okay, well, you have a choice, we're going to do this and that. And if you do this and this and this and this, then you violated the rule And so this will be your what's the word I'm looking for? Not punishment. Your well, basically like your repercussion. And it's done to teach the child what's right and wrong. Sometimes, like the discipline might be, well, you didn't do what you're supposed to do, so you're going to have extra chores. But I'm not going to have you do the chores here. I'm going to have you go and help the old people down the block. You got to help them clean their house. So you got to do some work, but it's going to be something that's going to bring somebody be important for someone else's life. So see again, it's reinforcing core values of respect and caring for people other than yourself. So that's how they tend to use discipline. And they talk about if the child does something, they say, well, that was a naughty thing to do, right? They say, well, that wasn't, a good thing to do, or, that hurt little Johnny or whatever. They talk about the behavior. They don't attack the child by calling them names like stupid and ugly and you can't do nothing right, this kind of thing. They don't say things like that to their children. And this is very important because they're talking to a child like and putting it down, attacking it like that, lowers the child's self-esteem and confidence. Okay, these kind of parents focus on their children would never do that. And then the final type of this parenting style is the one where they're closest on their relationship with the child, the closeness of the child. This one kind of, it could be nice because I mean you want to, like I said, well, I'm going to show you how some of part incorporating some of each of these is the ideal way. But these parents, this is their chief way of interacting with their child. They are focused on the child's feelings and what the child wants, more so than what is right and what the child should be doing at his or her age, or what they do is that's right and proper. They always want to understand the child. They want to speak to, well, why did you do that? Or I think he did it because this and that. Their goal is to be close to their child. Basically, what they want to do is be their child's friend. Their priority is, making sure the child knows that they love them, that they can trust them, and they want to be the kid's friend. That's the slippery slope. Because you, as a parent, I mean, you want to have a situation where your child trusts you and comes to you with things, but you don't want your child to think of you ever as their friend. Because with friends, they're going to do and say things that aren't a parent-child relationship. It's just like if you're the boss at a company, you can be friendly with your staff. You can go out and, y'all go to lunch together, all kind of stuff. But when the chips are down, you are the authority figure and your responsibility is to get XYZ done and their responsibility is to do XYZ. And so, you have to jump back into your boss role. It's the same with a parent. You can't always be your child's friend. There's going to be times when you have to take that hard stance. And, that means you're going to have to say no and set boundaries and limits and disappoint them and some punish them and all kind of stuff is going to be going on. You cannot always worry about your child, what your child wants. Sometimes what they want is based on what other people want. Sometimes what they want is just following a trend, peer pressure. Sometimes what they want is not going to be good for them. And your job as a parent is not to be their friend, but to guide them to make a decision that's going to be good for them on the long haul. These kind of parents are very agreeable. Whatever the kid wants, these are I think they call these free range parents. They call them free because the kids just basically do whatever they want. And the parents just sit by and just let them do it and deal with the repercussions later. These are the kind that want to negotiate with their kids. I see them at the malls all the time. Like the kids will be like, oh, I want so and so. And the mothers, instead of just saying, no, you're not going to get so and so. We're not going to do so and so. We're doing this right now. They well, let's see how we can negotiate. Well, if I do that for you, then we're going to do this and that here. I mean, I'm sure there's a place and a time for that, but if this is the chief way that you interact with your child, you always trying to negotiate them to do what you want them to do and do the right thing, like their homework and chores and stuff like that. That's not good parenting. Okay, well, let's move on here. Now, I came up with what I think are 12 important parenting goals. Remember, this show is designed to catch you now, if you are a parent, off on the wrong track, or for those of you who raised some children and now you face maybe with dealing with your grandchildren. This could be something that you could learn, that you could teach your adult children that you didn't know or that you didn't do with them. It's never too late to correct errant behavior, but I think this is something that we need to talk about. I mean, who's going to go to a child psychologist if their kid is not like like having like serious problems? But I still think there are some important issues that parents need to think about and need to address, because their role as a parent, as a steward of that child into adulthood, is imperative that you do the best job that you can. You cannot leave this to chance. You have to think about everything that you do, everything that you say, and what your end goal is. What's the goal here? And stay focused on that and make your decisions in line with the goals that you have for your child and your child has for him or herself. So let's talk about these. These are my 12 ideas. You may have others. I'll be, like I said, taking calls later, and you can share your stories about helicopter parenting, lawnmower parenting, and free range parenting if you have some thoughts on those. But to me, your main goal with your in your role as a parent is to develop mutual respect. You want your children to respect you as the parent and the head of the household. You should respect them as young people trying to grow up and be the best they can. All kids want to please their parents. They do. They want you to be proud of them. But you have to do it in a way that even when you're disagreeing with them or they did something that they shouldn't have done, you still address the behavior and you talk to them with respect. You treat them with respect. Everyone deserves to have privacy, for instance. So parents who insist that their child leave the door open, especially when you have a teenage girl in the house with men and she has to change clothes in the room with the door open, there's something wrong with you. Okay, there's something wrong with you. Your thinking is a bit off. And teenagers need privacy. They should not have to share space with smaller children. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are incorporated in this, but respect for people's changing bodies, respect for people's changing, responsibilities and the load on them as they go higher and higher in school, respect for their choices, unless it's something dangerous and risky or something. You have to tolerate the fact that your child is a mini person. They are not an appendage or an extension of you. Okay? They don't have to be just like you. Respect the differences. You want to foster open communication. You want to have it so that your child feels like if they're having a problem, someone's bothering you, something's bothering them, something doesn't sit right with them, someone said something that they shouldn't have said to them, someone touched them, any problem they're having at school, at their whatever. You want your child to be able to come to you and talk to you about it. Right? That's what you need to have. You don't want to have a child that's shut down and shuts you out because you have proven that you won't listen or you don't care. The third point is you want to look for life to provide teachable moments. I'll never forget one of my friends. So she was such a savage. She was actually the impetus for me creating the video here called Punk Ass Parenting. Because she had her little son in the car. He's about 8 or 9, 10 years old, something like that. And they're driving, and he was mad at her, right? So he's saying, well, I want to get out. I'm going to walk home. And where they was home was a good distance away, right? And so instead of begging and pleading with him and acting stuff, she pulled over to the side and said, okay, get out. So he got out. She drove off, right? So she's looking at him in the rearview mirror. And first he's had all kind of bravado, right? Because he's trying to manipulate her to do whatever it was he wanted to do. So he's going to play this, I'm mad and I'll get out kind of thing, like he was going to hurt her. And I have to applaud her for this because she's raising a son by herself. And she did not let him mow her over, manipulate, or control her. She held firm. And so she waited a good 10 minutes till he was in absolute tears. Then she drove back and picked him up. I said, now, are you going to try that again? He said, no, Mama. And that was it. That was the end of him challenging her and trying to manipulate her like that. Because she called his card. She, made him throw his hands down in his bluff. She didn't fall for it. And that was a teachable moment to teach him, oh boy, I guess when my mama say no, that's what she means. You see what I'm saying? You want to give age-appropriate responsibilities and age-appropriate freedom. What does that mean? That means that your child should be doing some chores around the house. You should not have an 18 and 19-year-old sitting up there playing video games and you're doing all the housework. You should not even have that when they're 12. They should be doing something. They live there. Even the little kids can put away toys and pick up stuff and dust and stuff like that. Okay? The children are not helpless. My little brother, we taught him to set the table when it was dinner time and he was 3, 4, something like that. Could barely reach up on top of the table. But he would put the forks and knives and everything down. and the napkins. We all had responsibilities that were age appropriate. And I'm going to be going into that a little bit later and giving you some ideas for where your children are in development and what you should be doing with them. You want to pay attention to your child's mental health. I don't know why so many people ignore that. You see your child, crying around and, smoking things they shouldn't be smoking, and they're a minor, and, being depressed, sleeping all the time. They lose interest in their activities. They're just sad and morose. They cry. They tell you they're depressed. This kind of stuff. You need to pay attention to that. Your job as a parent is to address that immediately and get them some help. They need help. They do not need you to ignore that and think it's just going to go away and, it's just some hormones or something. Pay attention. In my mind, also, this falls into this trans thing because, to me, it's like a fad. And a lot of kids are being pressured to align themselves with that, even if they don't, because they want to fit in. That's, peer pressure. They want to fit in. They want to be like everybody else. They want to be accepted. And so if they're surrounded by kids who are saying that, well, next your kids going to be saying it too. I mean, it might, be how they really feel, but if you got a whole bunch of kids doing it and they never said that before, and suddenly, when 2 or 3 of them change, now here's like a whole army of them, it's kind of suspicious to me. But, the first step is to get into your child's head and figure out, okay, why do you feel that way? What's going on? What happened? What changed? Get them help. Don't blame and attack them. Talk to them about it and get them some professional therapy. You want to make an environment where you're trustworthy, where your child's not afraid to tell you anything. I explained that a little earlier. You want to be supportive while you push them towards independence. The time to do that and let them make mistakes is when you're there to help them get back on track. The time to do that is not when they're 30. Okay, the time to do that is when they're 13, 14. You let them do little odd jobs or babysit or whatever you're going to do so they get the sense of independence of making their own money. You teach them how to manage the money. You teach them how to be on time to their little babysitting jobs or whatever. You start teaching them how to do things, and then if they mess up, you're there. Even cooking, and if they mess up, you're there to help teach them how to correct it. And that's very important. Developing critical thinking skills is something, I put it on my list because it is important. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, how are parents going to teach that when they don't do that themselves? Okay, judging by the letters that come in this advice column, there's a whole bunch of people that don't have critical thinking skills in their parents. One thing my dad used to teach us that, and I didn't know that's what he was doing at the time, but when we would have dinner, when he was home, we'd have dinner, sometimes he'd be working late, so he didn't have dinner with us. But when he did, we would always have a conversation after we ate. So we're sitting up there maybe having dessert or whatever, or he say he want to talk to us, so we keep sitting there. And he would throw out something and say, okay, if this happened, well, how would you handle it? If so-and-so, you saw that this was a situation, what would you do? And he was teaching us through these simple conversations that we used to have, how to analyze a problem, how to solve a problem, and what resources to use to make the solution effective. It was very, very good training. I didn't know that that's what he was doing until I was in college. But, it's an approach that I use even to this day right here on this show. And I can do it like, just fingers popping fast because I was trained to do it practically since I could talk. That's what my dad was doing with us. Critical thinking is to teach your child to make decisions that are for him or herself are so vastly important, to think about stuff so that they don't get caught up in scams and games, get gamed on and tricked and used and, overburdened with responsibility in comparison to other. All kinds of stuff comes in with teaching your child how to critically think. You want to foster resilience and tolerance for failure and distress like rejection. We have too many parents, the lawnmower type parents that want to make the road of life so smooth and no bumps and perfectly wonderful and crispy clean for their little precious angel, their little snowflake. So the child never has to deal with failure. They never have to deal with frustration. They never have to deal with rejection. They never have to deal with lack. They never have to deal with, with having a goal that they have to strive for and work towards. They never have to do any of that because their parents do everything for them. So then these kids get out in the world, right? And they've never experienced failure. They never experienced frustration. They never had to suffer a loss because mommy, usually it's mommy, was there to pave the way for them and make everything better. So then your child gets in the workforce thinking that they're going to get treated like mommy did. And oh boy, did they get a rude awakening. And they get in college and that's when they get a rude awakening. So then your child comes home, on tranquilizers and Prozac and stuff because they hit the real world where nobody cares about them and what they want and what they think and what they like. And they have to perform up to the standards of everyone else, which you did not prepare them for. You didn't teach them that. And so they got slapped in the face with reality stick that nobody cares about them like that except for you. The real world does not give a damn about your child. Not like that. They have to earn their place and take their role, take responsibility just like everybody else. So, you're doing your kid a big disservice when you jump in there and pave the way for them. You also want to work on forming healthy habits. If you notice like things like certain diseases, obesity and stuff like that tend to run in family, you know why? Because everybody eats the same. Everybody acts the same. Their habits are the same. And they're learning that from you. So if you eating like greasy burgers and you dip the bun into grease and all this kind of stuff and downing sodas and fruit juice all the time, that means that's what you have in the house. That means that's what your child's going to eat. You're setting your child up for diabetes and obesity and everything that comes with that because you're not taking care of it. Every other vegetables you eat come out of a can. Your kids don't have if they have a salad is that green little ball lettuce and is drowned in some kind of commercial chemical filled dressing. Y'all need to do better, especially if African Americans. I mean, I did the show on strokes. I did this, and and I eat healthy, and I still had one. I still think it's connected with that COVID shot, but that's another story. And you know, heart disease, diabetes, all kind of stuff, cancer, all kind of stuff is just so prevalent amongst young people, especially in the African American community. It has to be with diet and the lifestyle. So you as the parents, if you model exercise, you model eating vegetables, you model eating fresh fruits, you model getting proper rest, not smoking, not over drinking, this kind of stuff. You model that for your children will follow in your footsteps because kids listen. They listen to what we say, but they mainly watch what we do. And they do what we do. Okay? They do what we do. So you want to become a positive role model for your child. Don't be looking for sports figures and entertainment people to be your child's role model. That's your job. Step up. And then you want to use positive reinforcement along with punishment. So many people focus on, the punishment aspect and they never praise their child. They never offer their child, you get like my dad did, like I used to get pretty good grades, right? But my dad said, okay, I want you to get straight A's on your report card. I was like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something. He said, you get straight A's, every A you get, I'm going to give you $5. Oh, you didn't have to tell me. Honey, I came in with a straight A report card every report period after that and banked my money. Okay? In his mind, it wasn't like he was paying me for grades. He was paying me for doing over and above and making sure that I did everything that I could do to get an A. Like I said, I would get pretty good grades, but some B's in there, and I didn't always do my absolute best, but I needed a motivation. I'm still like that. If I have a motivation, you're going to get your best out of me. If I just leave it to myself, you're going to get what I want to give you, but it might not be my absolute best. At least I admit it, but that's how I am. So you find what motivates your child. Is it time with you, trips, Disneyland, one-on-one time with you, a camping trip, or whatever motivates your child. You hold that carrot out as a positive reinforcement for desired behavior. That's better to give them a stretch goal and something to achieve than it is if they don't do it and then you punish them for it. You see what I mean? It's positive reinforcement that way. Now let's talk about these helicopter parents and these lawnmower and helicopter parents. When these people step in and they take over their child's life, the child can't live their own life because you live in their life for them. Let's talk about let's start off by talking about some of the survey comments that came in. So the question was, what is a What is it? How do you define a helicopter parent? What does that mean to you? So this one person says, they say I wouldn't, you shouldn't, and no a lot. Another says a helicopter parent is a parent who does not allow their children to learn from their mistakes and or experiences. That's true because they always interfering. Kid can't have any experiences. They don't allow their children to problem solve issues that the child is capable of doing themselves. They hover over every aspect of their child's life. The child is pretty much a puppet controlled by their parents. You know, the first example I saw this, my daughter was like, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe 3. So anyway, she was little. And we went to this little playground by the house. And they had like, the little kiddie height slide where they go up the little thing and then they slide down. And, the slide is short and it's not steep. And, I mean, it's for that age group. So my daughter, I show her how to do it, right? I go up with her the first time. And then I go back down the ladder, let her slide down by herself. I said, okay, you understand how to do it? She said, yes, mommy. So she run around and she get back in the little line and she climb up the thing. I'm watching her, but I'm sitting on my bench or the towel, whatever. I knew I was a little distance away and I'm watching her. Because I want the little kids to push her and, hurt her off. You know what I mean? How little kids get to pushing and shoving and stuff. We didn't want to let anything like that. But I'm going to let her do it herself. And she did. She was very successful. Okay. She went up and down that thing 50 times. So then here comes this other mother. Her little son was about Terrence's age or maybe a little older. And she go and she's standing, behind the kid and she's hovering and, oh, be careful, and saying all stuff. So the little boy, he's trying to go up the slide, up this little ladder thing. And she's just hovering and guiding him and touching him and, pushing on his butt and doing all, just being extra. Right? Then she run to the side and the little kid slide down and she's slowing his descent because she's holding on to him to make sure her precious snowflake arrives at the bottom. So he didn't even get the slide experience because his mother was like controlling his descent. It was the craziest thing. But that was, I didn't know that that's what I was seeing at the time, but that was a perfect example of helicopter parenting. It was just unbelievable. And this respondent says this: a parent who's overly obsessed with their children. They want to save them and prevent them from experiencing any type of consequence or hard lessons. Because children are prone to take the path of least resistance, when they see their parents step in for them, even when the child is at fault, that child sometimes takes advantage of it and uses it to their favor. Wikipedia states that helicopter parents take place particularly at educational institutions, and I can vouch for this as a teacher. And this one says helicopter parents try to micromanage every aspect of their child's life. They act like their child is a clueless toddler, basically, no matter how old they are. They just want to micromanage their life. They could be in their 30s and they still be at it. Then I asked them to share a story about helicopter parenting, with either them or something they noticed. Like the teacher, they would have the experience at their job, right? This one had a relative whose parents only allowed church as an extracurricular activity. The kid couldn't do nothing, couldn't go nowhere, couldn't be on a team, couldn't do anything. So this person moved in with them and was told no about everything, not related to money, but more like, can I go outside and play at the basketball court, go out and play, hang out with my friends? No. Everything was no. And said that the cousin had been told no so many times that they just pretty much probably gave up. But this person came in and instead used their noggin and figured out ways around that. So the parents wanted, there's only certain activities they approved of. So this person was like, okay, well, let me use that to my advantage and get out of this house and away from y'all because you're crazy. So it was in every single athletic team. So must have had some abilities to get on every team, some natural athleticism. And started doing every kind of extracurricular activity at the church and just to get away from them and their influence and control. I thought that was brilliant. And this one, the teacher says, I see this year after year and I've noticed a huge pattern. Most helicopter parents are women who helicopter their sons. We knew that. No matter the race or socioeconomic status. Second place goes to mothers who helicopter parent their daughters. And then in the last place comes in the helicopter fathers who do that with either their sons or their daughters. But yeah, we are in agreement that most of this problem is women because, even with the boyfriend I had, his parents were married. His father was very active in his life. Both the parents were educators, smart people, master's degrees and all this kind of stuff, right? And so he was just, they had a hard time having him. And so by the time the mom had him, and she was just so elated that she finally had this baby, she treated him like he was, precious or something. Now here is the 6'3", 220-pound clown, and she treating him like he's 4. Okay, coddling him and just being just extra, just doing too much. I had never seen no shit like that because, well, my brothers, they did not get talked to and treated that way. So it was completely foreign to me to see a young man treated like that, like he was a baby still in Pampers. Okay, so this was where it got interesting though, because his father would come in and say, boy, blah, blah, blah. And he would jump up to get ready to do it because the daddy, was like, no joke. Here go to mama. Oh, come on now. He don't have to. So basically what she was doing was undermining the father's authority at every turn. He would give the son an order and the mother would interfere with it. He would give the boy a punishment and the mother would interfere with it. And so she created, even though both parents were there and the parents' relationship was fabulous, that one point was one of great contention, and it ended up, the end result was that he was just crazy. This is the lady I told you, like later when she got fed up with him and how he acted, which she made him this way now, but she got mad at him one day, and this is the lady who I told you went down the hall and came back cocking her gun, and that boy got up and ran like he was, I don't know, some kind of track star, and he was down the block zigging and zagging, and she was popping caps. And it was she never hit him though, but it was just wild. So some of the neighbors had to stop her. She was that mad. But I'm looking at that because I dated him for about, I don't know, 3 years, I guess. And then I'm thinking, lady, you created this monster. If you had just sat back and let your husband discipline your son and make him be a young man and accountable and responsible, he wouldn't be like this. He's like this because of you. And now you want to pop a cap in his behind because you see that is no. He's a big no. And this is a continuation of what that teacher was saying, that most of the incidents where the parents jump in are to prevent the kids from facing the harsh reality of a grade that they don't like, making up excuses for them to get out of tests or projects that they procrastinated to study for or complete, or they make excuses for their behavior instead of, calling them up short and giving them some kind of repercussions and consequences. These parents fail to realize that their child's responsible, especially at a high school level, for their work and need to learn these skills before going off to college, right? Because the professors don't care. I mean, unless you're in the hospital, and even then, it's like you better send somebody with your work as long as you're conscious. You can sit in your hospital bed in your traction and stuff and dictate your work, and somebody can take your notes for you and do what you need to do. There's no excuse. So, I don't know. It's something to think about. And these parents are saying, well, you could, my mom, I don't feel like going to school today. Okay, but let me call the school and tell them you sick. That kind of stuff. My parents didn't play that, man. I don't care unless you had a fever that was like 102 at least. You was going to school. We didn't get to stay home. I got to stay home sometimes when I had an asthma attack, of course, because then I couldn't breathe. Well, I guess that was pretty obvious. My mother was like, well, okay, you can stay home now. But other than that, you just got a little runny nose, a little sniffle. They stuff your pockets, little pocket packs of Kleenex. They give you that and dose you up with some cough syrup and push your butt out the door and drop kick you out the door and go to school. My parents didn't play that. You going to school. And they did not make an excuse for you. This one says, I was raised by a helicopter parent because I know that, she did it out of love because that's how she was raised. But they overlooked some abuses going on in the home. Her mother wanted better for her. However, this style has done its damage. At 26, I feel like my wings have been clipped. This one was sad. I struggle to stand up for myself in the workplace. I feel unsure of how to establish myself as an independent woman. I'm a college graduate, but I'm afraid to leave home. My mom is single. What will she do without me? What will I do without her? We are codependent. She has great insight into the relationship and how she got that way. But think of how sad this is. What's she gonna do? She's afraid to leave the nest. What do they call it? Failure to launch. And she's suffering for it right now. So then I asked, have you ever dated or lived with or married somebody who was raised by a helicopter parent? If so, describe their behavior and what impact them being raised by this helicopter parent had on you and your relationship. So I explained my story. We ultimately broke up when I'll share my story first because I didn't fill it in the survey. We broke up because of this one thing right here. Okay, we had a big test. We did this creative writing class, and we were supposed to write uh, how many words story? I don't know. Just say 2,500 words. I mean, it's supposed to be big, right? Like story, and it was like our final project. He didn't do it. He waited till the last minute and threw something together that was just all bad and poorly edited and had no kind of continuity. The character development was poor. It was just awful. It was awful. It was a hot mess. So he turns that in and he gets an F, right? I got an A. He was, and I had worked on mine for months. Okay, then he gonna turn around and be mad because I got an A, saying the teacher hated him and it was the teacher's fault and this and that. And I said, oh, because it couldn't possibly have something to do with the fact that you didn't do the assignment the way you were supposed to. But see, this is the one who was raised by that mother who ran interference I'm telling you about. So I could see the handwriting on the wall. I deuced out on that. But he just wanted it was everybody else's fault but his while he failed. Like this, I could just see this was not going to be anybody that I wanted to, marry and have kids with. And at that age you're in college, you're starting to look, your dating has a slightly different focus. I was starting to think more long term, and he didn't make the cut. And this young lady says, no, I haven't dated anybody like that, but I would say a close resemblance to this is the mama's boy, because the mama's overly involved in the son's life and she doesn't allow him to think and grow for himself. That's very true. And this one's the mommy's there to save the day when the son can't cope. Yes, absolutely. So then my final question, I think this was the final question. No, maybe this is the third question. What do you believe is the reason why some parents helicopter and refuse to allow their children to make mistakes? They refuse to let their kids challenge themselves and achieve independence in thought, choices, and action. So we're looking at the reason why they helicopter, basically. Because they are codependent and scared of being alone. They're also very controlling. That's true. Sometimes it's because they're immigrant to a new country and they lack assurance of themselves, so the parents project. Okay. Childhood abuse or neglect that they experience, they don't want their child to experience, so they step in. I can see that. And from what I have seen at the educational level, I can come up with 3 reasons. First, parents subconsciously understand that either they or the other parent or both did not do a good job raising the children, so they step in to clean up the mess that would not have happened had they done their job. Number 2, they need to look like the Brady Bunch, perfect and sweet, and therefore the parent can clean up the mess to keep the squeaky clean image. Thought, oh, that's interesting. And third, I think a lot of parents lack a sense of purpose, and maybe the pattern I see with moms who just see their kids as their purpose fall into this trap. On the other hand, they may have no purpose at all, and the closest thing is to latch onto their children. Exactly. These are people that they give up all their hobbies, they give up all their interests, they don't really keep a relationship going with their husband even. All their focus is on their children, and it makes for a sad marriage, a neglected husband. And then what you gonna do when the kids grow up and leave? I remind ladies of that all the time. Your children are basically on lease to you. They are not gonna be there forever. And those that try to keep their kids there forever, infantilizing your adult sons and daughters, you are crippling your children. They need to stand on their own feet. Otherwise, they don't have any confidence. They don't have any life skills. They don't have any sense of resilience. They have no confidence, and nothing. They have nothing because you have taken over their lives and you've ruined them by hanging on to them like in a choke chain. You can't do that with kids. So I want to give a couple examples of what it looks like. They gave some examples, but I want to talk about what it's going to look like from my perspective, some of the things that they do. And if you see yourself on this list, ladies and gentlemen, stop it. Stop it. Correct your behavior. That's what this video is for. I just want to bring this stuff to your attention because I think a lot of times, people don't really think about what they're doing. And you don't think, okay, if I do and say this now, what is the long-term result? Remember the video called "And Then What"? That's what I was trying to do, to get people to think about every decision that you make, every choice that you make, everything that you do and don't do has a consequence to it. There's something associated with that that's going to be a consequence or a benefit. Which one is it? How is it going to affect you or your child if you do this thing right here? That's a good video to watch too before you start making decisions about what to do about correcting your parenting style. Um, so you don't allow the kid to be alone or have any privacy. That was the beginning of this whole discussion. A post I made about a parent who refused to let her teenage son close his door. She just didn't want to do that. So we had a very interesting discussion about it. But that's part of this helicopter parent. They just want to know what the kids are doing every second. The kids can't do nothing. You're just nosy. You refuse to allow them to fail, to fall, or do age-appropriate tasks. You basically just prevent them from developing developmentally appropriate independence, because as kids get older there's different levels of independence. You know what I mean? Like a 5 year old is not going to be going anywhere by him or herself, but a 15 or 18-year-old 16-year-old can this kind of thing, or go on group dates and stuff like that. They're not going to be going on no group nothing when they're 7. They're going to be under your watchful eye. So that's what I mean. you know Independence, like cooking and stuff. You're not going to have a 5 or 6 year old over an open flame unless you're watching them. Whereas a teenager, they can probably cook a simple meal without you having to be there. So, but these kind of parents want to jump in and want to take over. They want to save the child from having any kind of problems, any kind of worries, any kind of concerns. You're just overprotective. I mean, just to the point of ridiculousness. Oh my God, you might get hurt. You might fall down, this and that. That's what Band-Aids and vaccine are for. Soap and water. Kids are going to fall. Any kid who has never fallen before is just a wreck, because that means they've never taken any risks. They've never done anything. These are some of the parents, they're going to choose what their kids do, not based on the child's interest or willingness to do it. Well, that's because that's what I want you to do. That's going to look good on your college application. And the child might suck at whatever it is that the parent did. They're going to force them to do it anyway. You choose the kid's friends. Well, I don't think you should be friends with so and so. They're not good enough to be friends with you. They're poor, or they whatever. They have a disability. We can't have friends like that around. That kind of stuff. Very judgmental. These parents will jump in and complete their kids' homework and school project for them. The kid's not doing it. You're doing it. Kids over there playing video games, watching TV while you do their homework. You don't let your kids solve any problems on their own. You always interfere and tell them what to do. Instead of saying, well, what do you think you should do? I know it sounds like a psychologist, but that's how you get your child to think. What do you think is the answer? What do you think is the right way to do that? What do you think is going to give you the solution that you're looking for? How do you think? What do you think about that? And then you let your child think it through. If they're not thinking correctly, say, well, okay, well, did you think about such and such? Did you consider such and such? Did you, incorporate A, B, and C in your plan? That's how you teach your child how to think. You don't make decisions for them. You let them arrive at the conclusions themselves. And it's not going to always be the best solution. It's not always going to be the right solution. But that's how they learn. And they do that while you're still there, while they're still a minor, still under your care and protection. That's when they should be able to make these kind of mistakes, so you can then help them, lift them back up. You don't lift up a 35-year-old. You lift up a 15-year-old. Okay? That's when you're still parenting. After that, they should have these skills. If they don't have your skills by the time they leave home, you did a piss poor job as their parent. And then there's those of you who want to interfere with the repercussions of the behavior and choices. You run interference like they do some kind of criminal act. You busy telling everybody, no, they were at home with me, providing a false alibi. Oh, no, he didn't do that. Oh, the dog ate it. All kind of stuff. You may come up with all kind of excuses and lies to protect your child from having any kind of repercussions or consequences. You're not doing them a favor. Okay? I remember my parents were so bad, we couldn't even find something, because they feel like if you found something, that might mean that you stole it. Unless they saw it laying there on the ground and saw you pick it up. If you came home with something new talking about you found it, where'd you get that from? Where'd you find it at? And they would make us take it back and put it back. Because it was like wherever we lied and said that we got it from or whatever. It could be true, but whatever. It wasn't coming in the house. Because to them it could be contraband. And they just didn't let us keep it. So it was going back to where you put it. Let somebody else find it, take it home. That's how they did that. So there was never any doubt whether, shoplifting, because a lot of kids do that. They're going to steal a candy bar. They're going to do something. There's some little thing they're going to pilfer something Some kids take stuff from other people's homes. All kind of stuff be happening. Some advance to breaking and entering and robbing people, home invasions, all kind of criminal stuff be going on. But it starts when you letting your child get away with little stuff, like coming home with a sucker or a candy bar that you know they didn't have no money to buy. Where you get that from? See what I mean? The continuation of this list is you refuse to allow your child to make age appropriate choices. You tell them what they're going to eat at the restaurant. You don't let them look at the menu and ask them what they want to eat. You pick their food for them. You do everything to interfere, like the teacher pointed out, in their school or extracurricular activities to prevent them from being disappointed or experiencing failure. You know, your kid's not going to be the perfect child at everything. Your child's going to need to work harder. These are the kind of parents, this is where the participation trophy came in, where you get an A for effort. You get a trophy just for showing up. You didn't have to do nothing. You didn't have to strive or practice. You didn't have to do anything. Just sit there and you get a trophy just like the kid who was the star player on the team. That is just so ridiculous to me. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Some of these parents will even reach out to the high school and college professors about their children's grades. Well, I don't think that was a fair grade. Little Johnny worked so hard. He should get an A. So you try to tell the professor how to grade and how to run their class. Okay? You put yourself in disagreements between friends, employers, or coworkers. The child probably didn't even ask you to do it. You just heard them talking about it, or they, trying to vent to you. Next thing you know, you up there at their job or at their school or up at their friend's house talking smack. You teach your children to be fearful and anxious because they get worried that they're going to do it wrong, that they're not going to do it right, that they're going to make a mistake. And you've instilled that kind of fear in them by always stepping in, saying, well, we're going to make sure it's right and it's got to be perfect and this kind of stuff. And so your child becomes fearful and anxious about making a mistake or doing it wrong. So what? They did it wrong. Who died from doing it wrong? Unless you're in a lab experiment, well, then that could probably cause a problem. But, and then in general, in school, they're not going to give kids no kind of chemicals where something real deadly could happen anyway. So it's a useless concern. You basically step in and try to control everything in the world and everybody in the world for the benefit and to protect your precious little child. Now, just to be fair, we have to look at, are there some benefits to helicopter parenting? Are there benefits? Because, most things have a pro and a con. And are there benefits to helicopter parenting? Yes, but primarily it benefits the parents. Why? Because a lot of parents feel like, well, I know what's going on, and they feel like they, I don't know, it gives them purpose. It gives them something to do. It gives them something to think about. Because in their life is so boring and empty, they don't have any interest, they don't have any hobbies, they don't have any friends, they don't have nothing going on in their life but their kids. So their entire focus is on their children. I just noticed that Bactine, the smell of summer. I know, Robin. Honey, we used to go through jugs of that stuff because we was always outside roller skating and biking and doing whatever and falling on our faces. My daughter, when she would ride a little kitty bicycle and flipped over the handlebars and scuffed up the whole front of her face. It didn't leave a scar. I slapped, some antibiotic cream on it and Bactine right away to make sure there was no infection set in, because infections is what starts making a scar. So, I kept it clean and put that on there so she had no long-term repercussions. But she was 4 and she did that. It's in her preschool picture. She got a big old bandage on her face. So it could be commemorated for the rest of her life. It was funny. But yeah, so those are the main benefits seem to be it calms the parents and it gives them purpose. Because they don't have any purpose on their own. Their kids are their purpose. And it's very suffocating for the children. This is like the helicopter mom always in there. What you up to? Peeping in the door, peeping in their diaries, peeping on their phones, going through their phones, going through their email accounts, looking over their shoulder while they on social media, who you talking to, tossing their room like a prison guard to see if they have any contraband in there and all kind of stuff. It's like they don't trust their kids. They just want to keep their hand on their neck. If you have a great relationship with your child and you've done what I said, like take care of your child's mental health and allow your child to have good communication with you, that's not necessary. Those kind of things aren't necessary. It would never happen because your child doesn't feel the need to hide and be all secretive and sneaky because they know that you're going to give them that space and that respect. So then we look at the downside. Is there a downside? A downside to this? So there, we talked about the one positive is that, that it helps the parents feel better. Is there a downside to a lawnmower and helicopter parenting style when it comes to children? Yes, there are a lot of them. There's really only one benefit, and that's for the parent. The downside is we got a whole generation of kids who are raised like this who are suffering. They're suffering now because of their parents. This is what we see on a daily damn basis through my advice column in society, on Reddit, on YouTube, everywhere you go, on all social media platforms, in real life at jobs, in real life at schools, in your families, in your neighborhood. Everywhere you go, this is what you see in the children of today, the young people, the young adults. They have low self-esteem. They don't have any confidence about anything, right? We see that all the time, right? In the advice column. They lack the ability to set boundaries. Why? Because they've never had the opportunity to set any. Everybody told them what to do. They doubt themselves and their abilities. Why? Because they never had to do anything. Mommy always stepped in to do it for them. Right? They never had to face a challenge and that never built up that pride in themselves that, oh wow, I met this challenge. I did this. I did that damn thing. They never get to experience that because mommy is always in the damn way doing it for them. So these kids, they have no resilience. They don't have any idea how to deal with failure, not getting what they want, rejection, this kind of thing. They don't deal well with frustration and they don't know what to do because they've always been given everything they want. Everything they want was given to them by mommy. Her special snowflake never had to wait for anything, never always made demands and got what they want. And it's just set your child up to be just a waste of time. Nobody's going to want to be your child's friend. Your son is not going to get married. And if he does have a relationship, he's going to be a piss poor, abusive, and just twisted one because he doesn't know how to do these kind of things. He doesn't know how to associate with a woman and relate to her on a real emotional level because he never had to. You took that away from him. Your kids are full of anxiety and fear. I've never seen something. No, you guys notice me commenting on that on the advice column. I've been doing this column since the early 90s. I used to do it on Net Noir on AOL, and then I moved to my own blog, AskCarby.com, in the late 90s. And then I had set up survivingdating.com. I did it there. Then I did it on Blog Talk Radio, and now I'm on YouTube. I've been doing this for 31 years. This fall, to be 31 years. Never in the history of my relationship advice work have I seen so many young people full of anxiety, depression, and fear. No confidence and low self-esteem. It's just unprecedented kinds of mentality. And I keep looking at what could be the possible source of it. The only source is parenting. The parenting styles have changed. The boomers and the Gen X people don't parent like this. It's the millennials and, it's just a whole new style of parenting and it's failing children. Okay, these kids have some severe entitlement issues. If you never hear no, they stop, don't do that, wait, all that kind of stuff. You never experience that, having any of the slightest bit of frustration or not getting what you want. That's your life. You feel entitled. It's created a bunch of narcissistic little jerks. That's what is created in our society. These kids have poor coping skills. Loss and frustration, they just go bonkers. They can't, disappointment, they don't know how to deal with it. Yeah, Robin, I'm pretty old now. I started this, I was young. Now I'm not. But, this is just terrible. Plus, these kids lack self-control. You know how many of the women talk about, I was walking down the street and this guy asked me for my number. And I didn't want to give it to him. And then they do something inappropriate to the girls. I mean, what they do varies, so I don't even want to list it. But it's an inappropriate response to the fact that a complete stranger doesn't want to interact with you like that. This is a person who has her rights. You don't know what's going on with this girl. You don't know if she's just going through a divorce. You don't know if she's just getting engaged and just about to, or she got sick parents. She's sick. I mean, there's so many reasons why somebody would reject you on the spot when you trying to get them on the street. It's so disrespectful. Leave women alone. But these guys go crazy. They go crazy. Then you have people that have no life skills. They're completely dependent. You meet men that say, "Well, I don't know how to cook." How you don't know how to cook nothing and you 35 years old? Well, my mama always cook, or my grandmama. But you don't even know how to boil an egg. You don't know how to do nothing. They know how to cook. They don't know how to clean. Well, it was terrible when we went off to college. How many kids didn't know how to do laundry? Of course, they have to do it then, and then all their clothes come out pink because they don't know how to separate colors. It was terrible. You could tell who didn't know what the hell they was doing because they walking around campus with everything pink. Everything. It was really sad. But those parents did their children a disservice. So you got your sons walking around with a pink wardrobe because you didn't teach them how to wash clothes. Or else they just wear the same dirty clothes and be stinking, killing everybody with the funk. Some of them would do that too because they didn't know how to do it. Now let's look at some of the things that you might hear a helicopter or lawnmower parents say. These are very common sayings. Let me do it for you so that it's done right. Right? What does that do? That makes your child feel incapable of doing it themselves right. You have to do it. Otherwise, what they do is wrong. You see the subtle subliminal message there? Well, let me just go with you in case XYZ happens. These kind of women will go take their sons and go to the job interview with them. Wives will go to the job interview with their husbands. They go to college interviews with them. And I don't mean just drive them there. I mean want to sit in the room. It's just unbelievable. Well, I would be scared if you do blank, fill in the blank. You might get hurt. Well, that's a part of life. People are going to get hurt. But you know what's good about it? They get up. They get up. They brush their butt off and they get up and they try again. If your kid never challenges themselves and never takes risks, your child is just going to be a lump on a log and always playing it safe and always just being a follower. Because the only followers who've already gone the trail that's already been paved and walked well are the ones who never experienced any kind of pain. You want a child who's going to be brave. You want a child who's going to be creative. You want a child who's going to go out and come and invent stuff, come up with new ways to do stuff, be innovative. To do that, your child needs confidence and the belief that they can see things and win. Okay, if you always run the interference, your kid's never going to experience that and never take those kind of risks. Your child is basically just going to live his life as a follower, little meek, little beta, zeta, something. And your kid's going to be an embarrassment to himself and to you. Well, don't do it like that. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. Well, who made you the decider of what's perfect? What makes you think that your way is the only way to do something? You see what I mean? And you get into a conflict at school. Now, you in high school, okay? You in high school. We're not talking about third grade here. Well, I'm going to call her mother and get this fixed. I can't have people talking to my daughter like that. No, that's kid shit. You adults should not get involved in kid shit. I mean, unless your kids get jumped or something like that, like severe bullied and, coming home all messed up, well, then that's another story. Like my daughter, her hair was really long and she had, natural twists. I told you when I blew it dry, her hair was like down to her waist. Her hair was really long. Some little girl was jealous of her hair. Some little girl, what they used to call it, snatch hair. She was jealous and she took some scissors and took one of my daughter's twists and cut it out. So she had like a patch in the back of her head. So she comes home crying, right? Mommy, so-and-so cut my hair. I see where the twisty used to be. I lost my mind. This is like severe bullying. This is like assault, okay? So, at the time, she was like 9 years old. I marched myself up to that school and demanded they bring that girl's parent in. And I told her, you keep your daughter away from mine. If she puts her hand on her or see any kind of other kind of egregious behavior towards my child, I'm going to sue you. Because what she did right here is called assault. Under the law, this is assault. Oh, well, you taking it too seriously, this and that. And I'm looking at her with her snatch hair too. And I'm like, that's why y'all just jealous. You jealous. But I just looked at her and I said, well, I can see that the hair issue is one that you also have. So that's why I said just to be a B. And so then she just looking at me right and I said, but you mark my words. That's why I still working in a law firm. I said, I will sue you so fast later make your head swim. I will have all your paycheck. You're not going to touch my kid. Okay, now what had something like that happen when she was in high school, I would have let her handle it. Because I'm like, well, what you going to do? You better beat her ass or something. Don't come telling me about it. But at the time, she was 8 or 9 years old. Of course I ran interference. So there's a level to this, but you can't run interference for your child when your child is 17. You got to let her deal with her own stuff. Like I said, unless you get jumped or something, that's a criminal act. Well, then, yeah, then you need to step in and take action. But, just some, so-and-so say she don't like me. And, this and that. And blah, she been telling everybody. Okay, that's kid stuff. You don't worry about that. You stay out of that. Or you want to go to the teacher. Well, why'd you give my child a C? He deserves A. You know what? Did your child do what your child was supposed to do? You should not be going to the teacher asking anything unless you see a pattern where you've checked your child's homework. You see that the child has done the assignment. You see the child did the assignment well in your eyes. Well, then, yeah, you might want to run with the teacher. Okay, I saw this and I thought it was pretty good. Please explain to me what was missing so that we can correct the way that we review his or her homework in the future. That's how you do that. You don't attack the teacher and demand that they change the grade. The teacher is your partner in getting your child educated. Use them as a partner. Seek their counsel and wisdom and education experience in educating children that you don't have unless you're a teacher yourself. Okay, I know I'm not, but I know if I'm going to see my child doing really well with their projects and everything and turning them in on time, all stuff, but yet you keep giving them C, 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 D, D, D. Okay, I'm coming to the school now because this sounds personal. Okay, what's going on? I want to know what's happening. Okay. The other ones that you might hear another one of the parents say, well, I don't appreciate you not putting my son on a team. Okay, you know what? Your son can't dribble. Your son falls over his own feet every 5 minutes. Your son has no upper body strength. Your son has no eye-hand coordination. Your son has no speed. Your son does not belong on the team. It was great that he tried out, but he didn't make the cut because the other kids were better. Okay? They're more like what we need. Your kid is not. So let me try to get the loser kid on here so you can get a participation trophy. Get out of here. Go take your kid, get your kid in a basketball camp or something. Maybe let them try out next year. That's what you should do as a parent. Don't complain to somebody else because they have standards and your kid don't meet them. So how can we avoid becoming a helicopter parent? Okay. This is important. And I want those of you who are raising sons, especially sons, daughters seem to be able to make a U-turn and correct it, a little easier. Sons seem to really struggle with this because the sense of entitlement they have will kind of spill over into relationships and their expectations of women, even women that are complete strangers. And it creates problems. So, yeah, let's talk about this. How do you avoid this? What steps do you need to take? This is my list, of course. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, no, I'm not T. Barry Brazelton nor Dr. Spock. But I have a lot of experience with children, including being partners with my mother on her daycare for 25 years. Okay. Thousands of kids. And then she had foster kids after that I interacted with because I was her backup person. So I had to go through the whole fingerprinting and the whole thing. So, a lot of experience with kids. They make you take parenting classes. You have to, all kind of stuff. So, I've had some education on it, but, that's not my career. Okay, so let's talk about this. What my observations are, what makes kids successful. Why you don't want to be a helicopter parent. You want to let your kids try things and do it themselves. From infants to trying to put the puzzle pieces together. They have a little puzzle box where they put the shapes and stuff. It starts that early. It starts by giving them little tasks to do that they can do themselves, like put your own toys away. Get your toys off the floor. My mother used to do that at the daycare. The little babies couldn't even walk yet. They 9 months old. They crawl. They throw the box on the floor. So she goes, you put the blocks away. So here the baby go pick up the box and go crawl with the block and put it in one of their little haunches, throw the block in the box, crawl back and get the other box. And they would do that over and over until they picked all the blocks up. 9 months old. Kids can learn how to do things and be independent. She would also teach them to wait. Okay, because they would come in and they had these kind of parents that would just, the kids would rant, rave, and yell and throw a fit, and they would get what they want. Oh no, my mother was not having it. So she would put everybody had like a certain seat that they sat in. They knew their seat. They have a little towel, and she would have put the babies in the high chairs, right? And then she would start fixing the plates. The kid who complained and demanded to get theirs first, she would automatically make them be last. Automatically. You're going to wait patiently for you to be served in order. The babies would be first, and then the youngest to the oldest. Sometimes she would reverse the order. But you start complaining and demanding that you want yours now, you're gonna be last. And that's how she broke them of that habit. They learned real quick to shut up and just wait. It was a wonderful thing to see. She taught them to respect each other, to be patient, to say please and thank you. The guidelines, you get up from the table, you push your chair in, you wipe your face with your little towel, wipe your hands, put your towel there, push your chair in, and go and get your mat because now it's nap time. Everybody knew the program, and they were very young too. These are preschoolers, and they knew the program. So and she would teach them stuff. So by the time they went to school, they knew ABCs, numbers, counting, all kinds of stuff. Rudimentary addition, all kinds of stuff. They had social skills. They knew how to conduct themselves, and she did all of that with 9, 10-month olds all the way up to 5. Hundreds of times over those years, because the kids, they would age out or move or whatever. So I mean, it's constant stream of new kids. So you got to let your kids try stuff, and you got to let them fail. They're gonna mess up. They might be a little frustrated. They might cry a little bit, but you say, well, that's okay. It's okay that you made it. You didn't get it right the first time. Let's try it again. And you encourage them. You don't say, oh my God, you just messed up. Oh my God, and just make this big deal about their failure, make them feel bad. You pat them on the back and say, well, that's okay. That's how you learn. Thomas Edison made 1,000 different versions of the light bulb. And when asked about the one that worked, he said, well, I just figured out there's 999 ways that it wouldn't work. See how he reframed that? That's how you do things. And you got to do that with your kids. You want to encourage open communication with them. They want to tell you something. Don't shut it down. Sit down and listen to them. You got to remind your kids that they ain't special. They are not the special snowflake. They're just like everybody else, but they're precious to you. They're precious to you, but there's no special rules for them, no special laws for them. There's no special guidelines for them. They're going to fit into society. Society's not going to fit into them. You've got to teach your child that. Society is here for a reason, to provide structure so that all of us can live comfortably together. If you don't teach your child the rules of society, your child will be labeled a misfit. Your child will end up in prison. Your child will end up rejected. Your child will be a mouth breather in the bottom of your house, in the basement, in the dark, playing video games at 40 without a woman because you didn't teach him how to fit in with other people. A lot of these parents don't teach their children table manners. They don't teach them anything about how to dress. They don't even teach them basic personal hygiene. They just let them do whatever the hell they want to do. Your kid stinks. He got messed up teeth. He hasn't washed his hair in days. All kind of horrible stuff is going on. And you just let it fly because you just let them do what they want to do. Because you're so focused on being their friend. You want to encourage your child to be independent. Now, this is very good because, now they got smartphone with calendars. So, my mother used to have a calendar where, we would write all our stuff in and stuff. So, I mean, even though it was a central place, we would all be responsible for putting our own things like mommy, PTA, parent-teacher meeting for Deb, PTA meeting for the school, this kind of stuff. Girl Scouts on this day, camping trip on that. We would put our schedule on this big calendar that was in the kitchen. But, kids today, you have smartphones. You can have an electronic calendar where everybody can enter their stuff. And your kid can keep up with their own schedule when assignments are due, when they're going to, when they if they're babysitting or have a job or something, what their work schedule is. They can do all that themselves. You should not be doing that for them. They have to learn to be independent. You also teach your child to save their money. So, don't let them spend it all. So whatever you get, you need to save, I don't know, say 40% of it, 50%, 20%, whatever you said. Just start teaching them to save and to have delayed gratification. They want to get, some fancy video game or something, some console or whatever. Well, you're not going to pay no $300-400 for it. So you say, well, you can get that. I'll tell you what, when you save up half of it, then I'll do the other half. Something like that. It gives your child a goal and it makes them a contributor to achieving what it is that they see as a dream. It makes them work for it. And it teaches them that you don't get everything you ask for. You got to put in some work to make it happen. Little things like that. But you got parents that go out and buy their, 12-year-old a $1,000 iPhone. I'm not even paying $1,000 for an iPhone, and I'm an adult and I work. I'm not going to do that. But these people do that, and their kids start feeling entitled. Okay? You don't give their kids chores. It's surprising to me how many mothers sit around and do all the work in the house by themselves. The daddy don't do nothing, and the kids up there don't do nothing. And the mother's exhausted, stressed out, and works a full-time job too. I got all the people sitting on their butts just waiting for service. I wish I would. You need to get yourself together, chicks. Divide them chores up. Age appropriate. Age appropriate chores. Okay, like I said, you're not going to have no 7-year-old cooking dinners. Although some seem to be able to do that. I watched that cooking show where the little kids were competing for contest, some kind of cooking award or something. And they was like 8, 9, 10 years old, and they was cooking up a storm. I'm like, dang, they cook better than me. But, it just depends on your child, I guess. But in general, watch for age appropriate, especially regarding safety, something that could burn down the house. You know what I mean? You want to be careful with that. But you want to give your children responsibilities in the household. They should be cleaning their own room. You can teach them to do their own laundry. You can teach them how to, I don't know, maybe watch their younger siblings for 30 minutes or something while you take a bath. Just little things where they contribute to the household. Polish furniture, vacuum, that kind of stuff. Pull the loads out, pull the dryer clothes out the dryer and fold them up and just leave them, put them in people's beds or something. You can teach your children to take some of that load off you. By the time they're 12, 13 years old, they should be washing some dishes and they can start cooking some basic meals, right? They could be making their own lunch at 8, 9 years old. You don't have to do it. They should be able to do that themselves. You make sure the food's in the refrigerator, the fruit's there over there, the snacks and stuff is there, the little juice box or whatever. You want the stuff in the house, but you don't have to do it. They should be responsible for doing that themselves. That kind of stuff. You want to support your kids by speaking and standing up for them, to speak up and stand up for themselves. Of course, respectfully. You don't want to teach your children to go calling people names and mumbling and being stupid. Or if someone does something that's a transgression, you want your child to be able to assert him or herself and say, well, no, that's inappropriate, or no, that's, you're incorrect, or no, I don't like you speaking to me that way, that kind of stuff. For little girls, that's especially important. Remember the letter the other day where the boys were touching the little girls and saying all kind of foul stuff, and the girls were just like, oh, hee. Those girls hadn't been taught how to stand up for themselves and establish boundaries. So the boys are just taking advantage of that. You've got to teach, especially your daughters, you've got to teach them how to stand up for themselves and put up boundaries and to maintain those boundaries. You've got to teach them that. You cannot run interference for them their whole life. You've got to give them the tools to stand up and be independent and responsible for themselves. You got to let the kids that do stupid stuff deal with the consequences of it. You can't swoop in there with your magical cape on and save them all the time. They do some dumb shit, they need to suffer the consequences. Mainly if you've already told them not to do it. Now, if you never told them, well, then that's on you. But if you told your child, don't do this and that and this and that because XYZ is going to happen to you, and I would not like to see that happen to you, and then they decide to go do XYZ anyway, well, then they need to suffer the consequences of that. That starts early at home. If you tell your child, if you do something like that, I'm going to beat your little ass, and then they do that thing that you told them not to do, and then you don't beat their little ass, well, then you just told them that you don't mean what you say, and they don't have to respect anything that you say because you just a puff bag. You're not no kind of authority figure. You just make empty threats. Whereas if you say, look, I told you if you did XYZ that I was going to beat your little ass, and then you proceed to go and beat their little ass, well, then now they learn, oh, shit. When mommy said that, I guess she meant what she said. I guess I better not do that anymore if she says that again. You see what I mean? You've just taught your child. And the main thing is you have to teach your child to accept and appreciate their strengths as well as their weaknesses. So many young people focus on what they perceive to be their lackings, their failures, their weaknesses, where they don't measure up to other people. So they always compare themselves to other people, and they come out on the short end of the stick. You teach your child, well, yeah, you're not going to be absolutely perfect. There's going to be people that's taller than you. It's going to be people that's better than looking than you. People that have longer hair than you. People that don't wear glasses and have better vision than you. People that come from families that have more money than you. There's going to always be something different between you and other people. But guess what? You're wonderful just the way you are. The world needs all kinds of people to make it go around. You don't have to be like everybody else. Appreciate yourself for what you are. Right? That's really hard for a lot of people to do. They look at other people to validate them, and they need that kind of outside reinforcement. You've got to teach your kids to appreciate and value their own strengths and weaknesses, which is basically to appreciate and value themselves. You've got to teach them that, to acceptance. So as a parent, what can we do? How about you start by respecting your children as individuals? A lot of men have this real bad about their wives. My wife is, it's like their wife is projection of them or extension or an appendage or something. Your children are individuals. Okay, you don't own them, you don't control them. They are not puppets on a string for you. They're not mini yous. They're individuals with different needs, ideas, and thoughts than you. Really listen to your kids. You know, your kids say, "Mom, can I talk to you?" Okay, that's a sign that something's wrong. Okay, your child, whatever you're doing, put it down, or say, "Okay, I got 20 minutes or whatever. What's happening here?" And you put that down, right? I have a deadline at work. I got to get this in by 6, but this sounds important. You put it down and you turn and you face your child and you give them your full attention and you talk about it. And now, if it requires more time or energy, you say, "Well, okay, I hear you. I'm gonna look. Can we shelve this for 10 minutes while I get this into my boss, and then I will come into your room and we'll finish this conversation because I really do want to resolve this with you." Something like that. It shows your kid you care. You're there for them. You got their back. You're gonna listen. You don't brush them off. You don't let them talk over the TV. You talking on the phone. You're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Half listening. If your kid's trying to talk to you, listen. Please listen. It's critical. Sometimes it's critical that you hear them. Somebody might be, doing something that your kid is scared to even tell you about, but they worked up the courage to do it. You need to listen. Okay, you're gonna miss out on stuff. Now, and I'm a firm believer in being, firm and all that kind of stuff with your kid. But sometimes, you got to pick your battles. Okay, you got to pick your battles. Now, you got to let little shit go. Like, you want your kid to be clean and neat, right? But the child likes to wear weird clothes. Your child wants to wear weird clothes. Sometimes, you don't can't wear that. That's not matching. That look crazy. Just not, you're not the one that's going to be walking around in it, so why do you care? I experienced that when my daughter was 3, and she learned, she was going to daycare, what you call a little preschool, and she wanted to dress herself. I was in a hurry. Okay, we had a deposition at work, and I need to be there like on time. I couldn't mess around with her. She wanted. Let me tell you what the child put on. It was a summer sunny day. She put on her red rain boots, and she put on some striped Pippi Longstocking looking leggings, and she had on a little denim jumper thing, and then she had on a yellow turtleneck now in the summertime, and then she wanted to wear this hat, and she looked a hot mess. She looked crazy, but when she looked in the mirror, she saw the epitome of beauty. And you know what? I rolled with it. I put her little hat wearing, rain boot wearing self in the car seat, and we went to the daycare. And I walked her in there, and the teachers looked at her, and they were like, "Oh, it looks like someone dressed themselves today." I said, "That's right, and she's beautiful, isn't she?" Wink, wink. And they're like, "Oh yes, you did a great job." So she just beaming. But I didn't give a shit what you wore. I'm just out of here. I got to go to work. You see what I mean? So you pick your battles. That was not anything to go a hill to die on. What she wore to school. I didn't care. It was clean. She was clean. Her hair was done, and she was dressed. Let's go. That's all I cared about. But I know a lot of people would have had a fit, because the kid don't look right. And you going out here, you reflecting on me. People going to talk about me because my kid is dressed crazy. Nobody cares. Everybody understands 3 and 4-year-olds are pieces of work. Okay? Everybody knows that. So sometimes you just got to let stuff go. Even when they're older, just let it go. You got to be consistent though. Consistency in parenting is key. If you make a rule, then that rule must apply all the time to all the kids forever into eternity. Okay? Otherwise, it's meaningless. I'm gonna tell you how my parents' consistency. I used it to my advantage. I skipped it was like a year and a half of school. So I was a lot younger than everybody else in my class. I wasn't socially at their level where they were dating and doing stuff. I wasn't there. I was still in Girl Scouts, because I was like 2 years younger than them. So it became a problem though in high school because they wanted to, they feel like you in their grade and they invite you to do stuff. Well, I didn't want to go to no boy party with boys and do all the stuff I knew they was gonna be doing at this party. So in my mind, I knew my parents wasn't gonna let me. after school I had to come straight home, so I knew I wasn't going to do nothing fancy. So I was able to say no. My parents wouldn't let me do that, and this. Well, I'm gonna come to your parents and I'm gonna ask them. So me knowing my parents, fine, let's go, because it saves face for me, right? So they go, they thinking they gonna convince my parents, and my daddy opened the door like, well, who's this? And here come this little boy. Well, I want to take her to such and such and this and that. And my father would look at me and say, no, she ain't going. You tripping. Slam. And I knew that was going to be his response because I know my parents. They've been consistent my whole life. So that got me out of it. So instead of me having to take the heat for that and take the hit, oh, you this and that, you wicked. He went to school the next day and said, oh, well, her daddy slammed the door in my face. He wasn't trying to hear it. He wasn't let her do nothing. So after that, people left me alone. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes your being consistent will protect your child. It's a shield that your child may not even be able to explain to you in a way that it protects them. I told my parents about it later, but I depended on him to do that. That saved me socially in high school several times. But that was the first time, because the boy, he insisted he was going to come home with me. And, these pre-cell phone days, so I couldn't call to warn my parents that he was coming. He just, came on the bus with me home. And that's what happened. My daddy opened that door. I'll never forget that. Who this? MF, because that's how he talked. Who this MF? And I was like, oh, this is so-and-so from school. And he's like, you're looking at him like, And so then the boy is like, because he was like 16, I was like 14. And he's like, what you doing here? Well, I came to ask you if she could this and that and this and that. Well, no, she ain't going. Just slam the door in his face without even so much as a goodbye. But that consistency, you got to be consistent for your kids so they know what to expect. They know the rules. They know how you gonna roll. And it could be used to their advantage as well as yours. Do not be afraid to say no. No includes stop, get down. Don't do that. We will not do that. You will not get that. Stop asking me. No, you're not going there. This kind of stuff. Put boundaries around your kids. You're going to let them have some stuff. You're going to let them do stuff, like I said, that's age appropriate and safe, in the situation. But you don't have to be afraid of ever saying no. So many parents never say no to their kids. Even in the grocery store and sister stores, you see the kids climbing around and running around, racing up and down the aisles and stuff. Some kids, I was in Costco, these little kids running around, and the little boy ran, they was playing tag or something, and crashed into the carton of eggs. Broke all the eggs, and got egg all over his clothes and stuff. Why are you letting your children run wild in Costco like that? They was with their daddy, and he just looking like, whatever. Everybody was looking at him like, what kind of wild children are you raising here with no kind of restraint? It was just ridiculous, okay? But you want to see good deeds and you want to reward good behavior. At least at a 2-to-1 ratio as when you levy out punishments. Try for that 2-to-1. That's a good one. You want to give twice as much praise and accolades to your child as you do punishment. Going for 3-to-1 is even better. Because you want to give your kids quality time. You want to give them affection, and you want to tell them that you love them as much as you can every day. You don't have to pour it on like, just to the point of ridiculousness. But you want to show, like you walking down the hall and you see your kid, you stop and, just smile at them and say, hi, cutie, or something like that. Okay, that's showing affection. That's showing attention. You see your kid sitting there doing their homework, you walk by and pat them on the head and like, okay, look at that big brain working. It's little stuff like that. Your kid connects with you when you talk to them like that and you treat them like that. You sit down, you see them watching TV or something and stuff. You go in there because they like this caramel popcorn or whatever. So you pop them a bag and you all sit down there together. I knew you liked this, so let's have this and watch. What are you watching? Let me watch with you. That kind of stuff. Connect with your kids. And even when they get to be teenagers, they're going to try to act like they don't really want it. They lie. Bring them in and invite them to lay in the bed with you and watch a movie with you and then talk. Especially if you got a daughter, that girl talk stuff. It's important to keep that kind of close tie with your kids. Okay? And the main thing is you want to support them by showing up. Show up to your kids' game. Show up to your kids' recital. Show up to your kids' parent-teachers association meeting. Show up to whatever they're doing. My daughter did an art show one time at a restaurant, and it was way out of my way, and I had to work that day and everything. That's when I was working as a trainer. And so one lady, I said, okay, I'm sorry, I'll give you extra time next time, but I need to dip out of here about 20 minutes late early because I need to go across town because my daughter's in the art show. And she was fine. She said, oh, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. And that's great. And she didn't want the extra time. She was happy to get out of there because I was beating her ass. She was happy that the session was short. So I jumped in my car, sped over there, before it closed, and to see and take pictures of her and take pictures of her art hanging on the wall and stuff like that. And she was just beaming because she didn't think I was going to be able to make it because I had to work. But I figured out how to do it. So I was there for 20 minutes, but that was all I could really spare. But I did show up, and that kind of stuff is important to them. Now let's talk about, we're winding down here, but let's talk about life skills for kids. And this is going to be based on, I used to write for Command Studios, which was the part of livestrong.com. And I wrote for them a couple of years. This article, I think I wrote this in 2007, and it's still on my computer, called Life Skill Exercises for Children. Oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. Okay. So in my article, it said parents, teachers, and other adults in a kid's life should focus on guiding youth to reach their full potential as successful contributors to society. Everyday teachable moments occur which provide parents with opportunities to teach life skills such as problem solving, social and relational skills, decision making, and money management. Children well versed in social competencies tend to have higher self-esteem, are better accepted by peers and adults, and achieve greater success in life. So what kind of thing, how do you recognize when something's a teachable moment? There's a video here on the channel called Teachable Moments. I'll try to remember to link to it. But check that out, and there's some real tips for how to, to identify those moments where you can teach a valuable life lesson to your child. It says teachable moments can be created when your child wants or needs a material item for hobbies or school or fun. Using teachable moments teaches your child the skills to develop a sense of independence and confidence. You want to teach them how to do things like plan, shop, and prepare meals, right? And you want to teach them how to do their laundry. You can start teaching like little ones, put the vegetables in the little the salad spinner thing. My daughter used to love that. She just want to have salad all the time just so she could play with that salad spinner thing. So I put the vegetables in there, she spin a thing, and then, we'll put them on a plate and slice the tomatoes, whatever. So she felt like she helped make the salad. Okay, that was fun for her. She was 3. So, you want to give your children age-appropriate tasks and let them feel like they're contributing to the household. It builds self-esteem. It builds confidence. It gives them something to do, and they can talk about, so then her daddy come in, and he like, oh, this salad looks good. And he already knew it. And she like, yeah, I made the salad. And so she's all proud because she's spinning the lettuce and stuff, right? So, we would big her up for whatever she did so that, she felt more confident about trying other stuff. If your kid constantly feels like a failure, they're not going to want to try other things. You breaking them down and telling them what they did that wasn't right, or they didn't do it well, they're not going to want to try everything. You got to big your kid up, okay? Not to the point where you blow their head up when they haven't actually done anything. But when they do something and they do it well, they put their best effort in. What's wrong with complimenting your child and telling them you did a good job? You really tried hard. You did the best you could. I'm proud of you. What's wrong with you saying stuff like that to your kid? So many parents don't, though. I also said, okay, laundry and then money management is an important one, giving them a sense of the value of money. I knew I wasn't doing a good job one day with my daughter. She was only about 5 though. And she knew about the debit card, right? You put the card in, you get the money out. So I don't know what she thought where the money came from, but, I was like, oh God, I don't have any money. I said, that's okay, Mommy. Just go to that machine and put that little card in, and the machine will give you some money. So to her mind, the problem was all solved. And I'm looking at her 5-year-old, you don't know nothing. I said, oh, baby, how do you think the money got in there for Mommy to pull it out? She hadn't thought about that part. So she was like, I don't know. So I said, Mommy had to go to work for that. That's when my mommy goes to work and they pay Mommy. That's where that money came from. But, there's only a certain amount of it. It does run out. So you can't just keep going to the machine and putting in some stuff. It runs out just like sometimes when you eat the last cookie. Sometimes it's the last money too. Oh, she knew then with the last cookie, she was like, oh my God, that's horrifying. So I said in a way that something she could relate to. So, you teach your children about money management, teach your children about saving, and you teach your child communication skills, how to address people, how to communicate their thoughts and ideas, not to be a mumbling mouth, how to use their words instead of screaming and throwing fits and acting a fool. You teach your child to use their words instead of using their fists. Stuff like this. You have to work with your kids. It's not the kind of thing where they're going to learn how to do this automatically on their own. You have to teach them. That's your job as the parent. Now, what kind of things parents are like, I don't know what kind of things to do with my kid. You want to give them allowance. That's part of the money management. You don't just give them money willy-nilly. You give them an allowance, and then they have to learn how to manage it. Now, when I was in high school, my parents used to give me $20 a week, which was a fortune in that day. It was like unbelievable riches. But out of that, I had to buy my monthly bus pass. I had my own phone that I had, gotten when I was babysitting in the summer, but I had to pay the bill out of my allowance when I wasn't working in the summertime. If I wanted any extra clothes outside of the 3 times a year my parents would buy it, like I wanted some jeans like a friend or something, I had to buy it out of my allowance. If something going on at school, like a game or something, tickets, whatever, little chump change tickets, I had to buy it out of my allowance. So I had to learn how to budget and plan with my $80 a month, which was a lot in them days. And so that's how I got good with money. You get your kid run up to you all the time and just say, I need $20, I need $50, and then you giving it to them. They haven't done anything to earn it. You don't have any plans to make them earn it. They have no sense of delayed gratification. You're spoiling your child, and you're making them going to be an entitled brat when they grow up. So this was another article that I wrote, saying for the same Live Strong, about it was a list of chores for kids for allowance is the title of it. Chores for children 5 to 9. As young as 5, they can qualify for an allowance by being expected to keep their room picked up, put their dirty clothes in a laundry hamper, make up their bed, set the dinner table without being told, feed and water pets, wipe off the table after meals, get up for school and go to bed on time without a fuss. Opportunities for earning a quarter or two in extra money might be helping pull weeds and plant in the garden, dusting furniture, hunting for cobwebs, or dusting furniture with their hand in a sock. The 7, 8, and 9-year-olds can also be taught to move freshly washed clothes from the washing machine to the dryer, to help fold the laundry, unload the dishwasher, and put away their own clothes. Okay, you see how does that help you as the mom? See, they're not handling any chemicals or anything like that until they're a little older. Okay, children in the 9 to 12 age group, as they mature, their responsibilities increase. So they're going to get larger allowance, but they're going to have more responsibilities. Children at this age are larger and stronger and can do slightly more physical tasks, such as taking out the trash, changing bed sheets, vacuuming carpets and car interiors, sweeping or mopping floors in the kitchen and playroom, cleaning the bathroom, patio, or front walk, raking leaves, doing laundry for the family, cleaning out the microwave, and washing dishes or the car. At 11 to 12, children can also begin learning how to prepare simple dishes for family meals, such as tuna salad, burritos, spaghetti, hamburgers, and meatloaf. Of course, by younger, they can make sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. So you see what the goal is here? You're shifting some of the work off of you onto your child as the child matures. The child is getting a greater sense of responsibility. Therefore, they're getting a greater sense of achievement and their abilities to be effective as a person and a contributor to the household. This mentality is very important. If you keep doing everything, your child is never going to get to experience this sense of satisfaction for a job well done. This is an important thing to build your child's self-esteem and confidence. You've got to step back, ladies. You might be like, well, they're not going to do it right. So? They're not going to do it the way that you would do it. It's not going to be done to perfection, maybe. But the fact that they did it and tried, that's all we're looking for here. As they do it more, they'll get better at it. But you've got to give them the space to do that. And stop expecting perfection and everybody to do everything the way that you do. I had a friend that did it, her husband, he absolutely stopped interacting with their kids because of her sense of perfectionism. He didn't change the diapers right. He didn't wash the baby right. He didn't make the bottle right. He did whatever. She was constantly picking on him and criticizing him for not doing it the way that she did it. So you know what he did after a while? He threw up his hands and said, well, you don't know when they can do it right, you do it. And then she was mad because he never helped her. Well, you set that dynamic in motion yourself with your mouth. I told her that because I saw her do it. I kept telling her, you need to stop doing that. He's getting the diapers on, the baby's, I mean, what's the problem? But it had to be the way she does it. No, he got to put put the ointment on before the powder. Why? Why you need the powder at all? Just put the ointment on him, protect him from the diaper rash, whatever he was trying to do. I don't know. It was just, she just was just, it was crazy. And then by the time they're 13 and over, they're moving into high school. Their schedule is going to be a little bit more demanding, right? They're going to have more reports to write. They're going to have more research to do. They're going to have science labs. They're going to have all kind of stuff going on. So, and these, especially if they like in AP classes or something like that, they have sports or other kind of activities after school. Their time is going to be a little tighter. So they're not going to have time for so many extra chores. And some of them might even want to get a part-time, job if they're 16 and can get a work permit. So, but at this age, they can start doing stuff like babysitting, ironing, cleaning out closets and drawers, cleaning out the refrigerator or freezer, going to the store with a shopping list, preparing entire meals, you know, changing light bulbs, ceiling fans, cleaning ceiling fans, helping to bathe the younger siblings and put them to bed, and doing laundry from start to finish. They can assist with more challenging things like watching windows inside and out, using one of those extender things. You don't want to put them up on a ladder. You want to use those extender handles so they still safely on the ground, but they can still clean the windows that are high up. They can mow the lawn. They can clean and reorganize the basement or the garage. They can help the daddy, some really hard work like out in the yard or something like that. And they can do all kinds of other things, as things come up, maybe for neighbors to help make extra money. But start giving your child an allowance to teach them the concept of money does not grow on trees, and that, sometimes you got to save. You can't get everything you want right now. And, this is real life. You're not going to get everything the way you want it. You got to save for it and work for it. The bottom line is, when you're talking about the parenting styles, we went over the 3 parenting styles: the kind that's child focused, the kind that's parent focused, and the kind that's relationship focused. The bottom line is, what looks like to be the most successful result is a combination of parents that gives the best result for the kids is when parents use a combination of tough love and some warmth. So, you hug and kiss your kids and, tell them you love them, support them, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the warm part. But the tough love part comes in that you have very strict rules, boundaries. You're not going to let them talk to you any old kind of way. You're not going to let them hit you. I've seen parents allow their kids to do that. The kids cuss the parents out, all kind of yell at them, call them, Brenda. And I don't feel like doing that, Brenda. And stuff. It's like the parents tell them to do something. I'm not doing that. So the shape that would have been in the wall if I had told my parents that? I think it's good for the kids to have a healthy sense of fearful respect of their parents. Now, my parents would never be beating us and stuff, but there was always the fear that they might snap. They might snap, and so you just never know. And so we wasn't going to push them to that level where we was going to test it too hard. Because, by the time my oldest brother got about 17, and he started trying to challenge my father. This is a man who used to pick up refrigerators and carry them on his back upstairs. Okay, this is built like a little tree. You don't want to mess with this man. And here go my brother thinking because he lift weights and do judo that he gonna challenge my daddy. And my daddy looked, he said something foul and funky to my father. My father said, "What, you gonna talk to me like you are in on the street?" And my brother was like, "Well, that's something." My father stepped back and went, pow, and punched my brother right in the solar plexus, knocked all the wind out of him. We were actually scared because he went so long with no breath. It was like my mother, she was an RN, so she had to like roll him on his side and do all kind of stuff to try to help that boy breathe. But you know what? After that, he went off to college and he never said no problem with my daddy ever since. When my daddy was saying something, he was like, "Yes, sir. No, sir." Oh, Vanna, you probably did that on purpose. But so you got to know, and you got to know your kids as well. Like my brothers used to do the most craziest stuff and they would get their butts beat. I still remember the one spanking I got. I wasn't that kind of kid. My father could send me into a puddle of tears for days if he told me that he was embarrassed and ashamed and that I did something that disappointed him. Oh my God. Just thinking about it now, I just want to just sob. That was the biggest motivator to me was, him being proud of me. I still get choked up. That was hard. Because when he told me that one time, and I still remember it. And I bawled. Ooh, that was terrible. So for me, um, you know, I wasn't that child that you had to beat your butt or anything. Like I said, he just tell me that, and that's what I would be straight. But yeah, I don't know why. I'm just a daddy's girl. That's all that was. That was all about. The important part about all that is, if you give your child a combination of warmth and discipline, you know, like I said, a 2 or 3 to 1 ratio of praise, support, love, and encouragement to any kind of punishment, your child should not only remember the punishment, they should remember you rewarding them, thanking them, being proud of them, all this kind of stuff. um, you should, concentrate on that. Your child is going to be a wonderful, grow up to be a wonderful, confident person. It's crucial for them to develop traits like self-control, empathy for other people, resilience, so that if they face a frustration or something like that, they bounce back. They don't crumble and go into a Prozac bottle or a liquor bottle to make themselves feel better. They bounce back. It's like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work so good. Well, let me try this other thing over here. That's the kind of kid you want. You want a child that is determined to succeed no matter what obstacles come in their way. They're gonna go over it. They're gonna go around it. They're gonna dig a tunnel and go under it. They're gonna bust through it. Whatever it is, your child, though, your job as a parent is to give them the confidence by all the tricks and techniques that we talked about today to make that happen, to be a self-actualized, strong, and purposeful adult that's full of confidence with high self-esteem. That's what you want at the end of it, okay? That's what you need. You got to remember, these, you just looking at them as your little kids for now, but they're not going to stay babies forever, okay? Your goal is to raise the future generations. These are going to be the future leaders, the parents of the grandchildren and great grandchildren that you're going to have. These are going to be the future workers in offices, the future nurses and doctors, the future politicians, the future boyfriends, the future husbands. These are the people that are going to lay the path for what happens in our society going forward. You have an important job to do. You need to take it seriously and do it well. Parenting is the number one job that anybody who is the best job that you can have, but you can also mess it up real easily. So really give it some thought. If you don't have children, after listening to this, and you don't think you're up to this kind of challenge, then please don't have children. If you have children and you notice that a lot of the traits here are things that you're not really handling well, you're not taking care of your business, please correct your course. And if you already have adult children that you spoiled and you know that you raised some entitled brats, you're going to have to sit down with them and talk about it and try to figure out what you're going to do to try to correct that and change the dynamic between you and your adult children. You should not be having, 40 and 50-year-old people dependent on you, living in your house, not paying no bills, not taking care of their responsibilities. You got sons making babies and you let them get away with not taking care of their children and seeing their children and supporting their children. These are the kind of things, that's poor parenting. And you're teaching your child to be a poor parent. You're letting your child get away with being irresponsible and hurtful towards the future generation of your family. Those children have your DNA and your genes. They are your blood. Don't let your sons and daughters get away with that kind of stuff. And if they're going to be popping out babies and thinking they're going to be dumping on you, tell them no. You can't take care of your children. You're going to put them in foster care. Better yet, you should have used birth control to make sure they suggest that. But you if you have kids that want to dump their kids on you, that means you weren't a good parent because you didn't teach them responsibility and autonomy. You didn't teach that. So they think that you're going to still cover for them like you did when they were little. And a lot of you step up and you do that because you feel guilty that you didn't do what you were supposed to do when they were younger. Got to do better, people. Before you leave, please hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the like while you at it. Um, what do we have coming up? Oh, coming up. Yes, this. We're going to have What the Fuck Tuesday. Now, is it going to be on Tuesday? No, it's going to be on Thursday this week. But I'm going to try to get back to Tuesday the week after that. I'm slowly getting stronger. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, everybody, so that you can tune in. This is the craziest advice show that you've ever seen in your life. But it's a lot of fun, and we have a lot of laughs, and there's a lot of people who don't do what they're supposed to be doing. And so we, get to rag on them and everything. So now, does anyone have a question before we close out the show today? Any questions? If you do, let me see. Let me show you how to reach in. You can just dial in on this number here. If you on a phone, you just click the link, and that's how you get to me. Click it, and you can call in and be a part of the show. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Where's my head microphone? Shit. I'd like to hear your thoughts on, if I could find my headphone, that is. Oh no, where did I put it? Oh, here they are. Hear your thoughts, if you have any, on helicopter parenting, or your own parenting situation. If you have a question you'd like a little guidance on, you don't want to write to What the Fuck Tuesday, but you want to talk about it. That's the link. I'll put it in there again. You think about it. I know some of you are like, oh, I want to call in, but I'm kind of scared. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. You love these earrings? Yes, me too. Where did I get these? I don't remember. Thanks, Cozy. I like to, do this because this whole thing about relationships is not just romantic relationships. We're talking about parent-child, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships. There has to be a level of respect, and if you can't have that kind of respect, then maybe you need to go no contact or low contact, even if it's your parents. There's no crime in that. Nobody got any comments? Comment about what you heard today, maybe? Vanna says she got more tough love than warmth. I think that's a lot of people, but the whole point here is to try to get people. Thanks, John, to get people to balance it. That's why I want to explain it, because it's typically the African American way of raising children. Is kind of a cultural thing. Is the more of the tough love style, but I'm seeing where there's benefit to tempering that. So it's like we have opposite ends of the spectrum. Either the parents are real permissive and let the kids get away with everything and don't never check them, never say no, and grow up and they have dusty sons and dusty daughters that just are useless and just stupid because the mother does too much, because that's all she got is some kids and she hanging on to them by the throat. Or you have the parents who do the tough love to the point where they're just kind of sometimes cold and just dismissive and stuff like that. So what I've noticed is we tend to be at one end of the spectrum or another. It's really interesting. I'm not sure why, but what I'm advocating is to examine that. Because your parents did that doesn't mean that you have to do it at either end of the spectrum, and look at the benefits to your child for you stretching yourself to be to make an effort to go out of your way to change how you interact with them, to be warmer, more friendly, not their friend. Okay, there's a difference. More friendly, and then, to spend more time talking to them and just enjoying them before they grow up and become adults and go on their way with their own families and their own obligation and responsibility. We only have our kids for a certain, the time is very short. I mean, you think about from a little baby like this to when they grow up and off to high school and going dating and doing all kind of stuff, and then they're going away to college and you don't see them that much. I mean, the number of years is very short, and unfortunately for a lot of us, we have to work really hard because, I mean, I wouldn't have had to work so hard if my husband had died, but once the ball was solely in my court, I had to work super hard, so I didn't get to spend as much time with her as I would have liked to. Luckily, my mother kind of helped picked up some of the slack, but still, it's not the same as mommy. And so, I was always aware of that, and I always felt bad, but it wasn't nothing I could do because I had to, make a living. I wanted to have her in private school. I wanted to give her things that I didn't want her to suffer because her dad had died. So, make sure she had music lessons, and she was in marching band. So, you got to pay for the uniforms. You got to, get the instrument. I mean, there's so many things there's so many expenses involved, in, especially by the time they get in high school. You know, there's prom and there's like the senior ring and pictures and all the stuff and the senior trip and all. I mean, it was just a lot, and I had to cover all that plus my basic, household expenses, which were kind of high. So you got to make your kid a team member so that they understand what his finances are involved and what maybe they like can't do everything that's for the senior year, but pick the 2 or 3 things that are most important to them and then do everything you can to make sure that those things happen. And that's what we had to do. My mother ended up buying her prom dress though because I just couldn't afford it. I was like, this is like buying a bridal gown. I can't do this. My mom did it. But these there's other things. The whole point of this channel, every video on this channel has one theme to it, and that theme is to make you a better person, to make you better, to get you to think about why you do the things that you do and think the way that you think, and to examine those belief systems and attitudes and determine if you're doing those because they really work for you, or you doing that because that's what everybody told you to do. That's what everybody expected you to do. You never thought about if that really works for you and if that's the best thing for you. That's why I do what I do. I want you to be greater later. Okay? There's nothing wrong with being greater right now, but it takes time. It's a process. So the goal is to have you be greater later. Okay? And have these lessons sticking to you many years after I'm not doing this anymore. At some point, I'm going to have to pass this baton to somebody. But I'm still going strong right now. It was a struggle there for a minute. The last few months have been kind of rough. I wasn't sure I was going to make it. But, I persevered, and so here we are. But I'm so happy all of you guys came. It doesn't look like anybody has any questions. You guys are probably still blown away by all my information. So give it some thought, and if you want to, feel free to go back and listen to this again and take notes. Especially on the areas where you feel like you're a little weak and you want to make some changes. Take notes, and then try to work out a plan. Sit down with your kids and work out something. You guys start developing a better relationship, foster a better relationship, better communication, and spend as much time with them as you can. You don't have to watch as much TV. You don't have to talk to your friends. You don't have to hang out as much. Some chores can wait, or you guys can do them together. Sometimes, the best way to spend your time is in building a human connection, because in the end, that's all you're going to remember. Nobody's going to remember how much laundry they did and how clean that kitchen was. You're going to remember the laughs that you shared with your kids, the fun that you guys had together. That's what you're going to remember. That's what they'll remember as well. So it looks like we're about to be up out of here. But, hit that subscribe button before you leave. You can share this video or any of the other 1,200 videos on the channel. I would appreciate that. And be here on Tuesday at 6 p.m. sharp at the specific time for on Thursday, for What the Fuck Thursday, the Relationship Advice live stream. I will talk to everybody later. See you guys. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.